Welcome to Nonprofit Stories, inspiring tales from Silicon Valley. We will explore the transformative work of nonprofit organizations and leaders who are changing our community by tackling some of the most pressing issues facing Silicon Valley. So without further ado, let's dive into this exciting conversation. Today, we welcome Itai Shiu, the founder and CEO of the LaunchPoint organization. They aim to provide high-quality, professionally relevant, paid internships to college students from low-income, underrepresented areas and connect them with companies committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thank you to our sponsor, TradeMyHome.com, for their community commitment and for making this podcast possible. Silicon Valley faces an urgent paid internship gap. College students from underserved areas are sidelined, with only 43% of Black and 40% of Hispanic students gaining internship experience, compared to 56% of their white peers. Yet, with interns 82% more likely to secure full-time roles at their host companies. This disparity isn't just about internships. It's about the future of our workforce and widening wealth gaps. With white households holding median wealth almost 8 times that of Black households, it's clear, bridging the internship divide isn't a choice, it's an imperative.
Please tell us about the history of your organization. Who do you serve and how did it all begin?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit about myself. I spent 20 years in the ad tech industry. I went on to become a consultant for startups and tech companies here in the Bay Area, right. Doing operations, growth marketing, and recently I've started teaching at UC Berkeley's entrepreneurship program. So all of these things kind of intersected and kind of motivated me to do something that I was really passionate about, which was start a nonprofit. Now, LaunchPoint was founded on the notion that not every graduate is on equal footing upon graduation. So getting accepted into going through and graduating a 4-year college program, it's a huge accomplishment. But it's also this inflection point where young people start their careers. And despite hard work and intelligence and grit, there are segments of the population that due to socioeconomic, demographic, variables, they just aren't on equal footing.
Right.
In college, many years ago, I myself did an unpaid internship, learned a lot, got a lot out of it. I was able to put it in my resume. I still reference it once in a while. But then early on, I realized that I kind of had the luxury to do that. I could lean into my savings. I could ask for more help from my parents. And I realized that there are individuals that just don't have that choice. Working for free is kind of a luxury. It's a privilege. So you have students out there that need to work out of necessity. They will take these jobs to pay for books, pay for food, basic necessities. And oftentimes, these jobs, they don't contribute to professionally relevant skills. These students will tend to work more hours than their colleagues, and that will tend to lead to risks in grades, graduation rates, and most specifically, upon graduation, they have fewer professionally relevant skills that they can talk to, that they can point to. And the mission of LaunchPoint is to ensure that every graduate, regardless of what their circumstances is, have access to those same opportunities at this kind of critical inflection point or this launch point of their career.
Share a story where your organization has made a difference in someone's life.
Yeah, that would actually be our first sponsored intern. And this story actually goes 2 ways because they made a difference in kind of the evolution and the strategy of LaunchPoint. So in your introduction, you described us accurately. We strive to establish and create high quality, professionally relevant paid internships. The key word is paid. Paid. Is no internship should go without a student getting some fair wage for the work that they're putting into adding value to an organization. So this will happen regardless of the company's circumstance as well. And then for select opportunities, if the company is really collaborative, if they show that they have a propensity to be really engaging and have a lot of potential for creating a great, scalable, repeatable internship program, what LaunchPoint will do is we'll sponsor an intern. We'll sponsor their first intern so that they can develop some momentum around their internship program. So teaching at UC Berkeley, I have the luxury of kind of navigating through the campus and working with different departments, and began working with the undocumented students program. And every university, every college should have an undocumented students program. I worked with the one at UC Berkeley, and they were just doing some great work. And what they did is they introduced me to the segment of the student population that literally they can't be W-2 employees. They can't just graduate and find a traditional job. So early on, they have training around how do we become kind of contractors? How do we represent ourselves as a business, as an LLC, as an entrepreneur? So it's a whole other level of challenges, which I wasn't expecting I would have an impact on. So our first sponsored intern, we paired them up with a great operational agency who itself was led by a female CEO who was herself undocumented when she was going through university, went on to go through Wall Street, decided she didn't like Wall Street, and then she wanted to kind of create her own agency. So just a really great story. But this goes on to describe the type of host company that we really like working with. She didn't have a lot of extra budget to spend on paying an intern, but she had a lot of enthusiasm and energy. So we made this match. And originally, the way the payment works is I figured, okay, well, LaunchPoint will be kind of a contractor, and the intern would be a subcontractor. And the intern and the host company, they'll just focus on the work and working towards their objectives. They don't have to. The company doesn't have to worry about money. The intern just invoices LaunchPoint, and I'll make sure that intern gets paid. During this time, there was a lot of training around billable hours and invoicing and tax exposure. All these things that were a really, really interesting conversation for this young intern to kind of be exposed to. Ultimately, this program was it was a success. She spent 4 months really, really contributing to this business. She's gone on to she got accepted into this fellowship and has these aspirations now to herself start a social media agency, because it was just such a confidence boosting experience. So while I'd like to think LaunchPoint really taught her and gave her the confidence to do that, this experience really gave LaunchPoint the confidence to go out and seek out those opportunities and with confidence help young, fledgling, scrappy companies, as well as segments of the student body that may not have the opportunity to just be W-2 employees and need to think about how do we make money as a contractor or as an entrepreneur.
And what specific programs do you run to help those in need?
So our programs are split into kind of two sides. There's the student side, where whether or not we do recruit them to be an intern, we do have this great community where we offer coaching, career advice. We also provide monthly professional insights sessions where I have a guest speaker. Somebody from my advisory group comes in and shares their perspective and insight about what's going on in business, in industry, with the emphasis on why does it matter? How do you make this actionable? how do these skills work its way into a conversation, a real challenge that you may be faced with? And this occurs whether or not they're in college, and when they've graduated, they're alumni. Basically, consider it lifetime membership into this LaunchPoint community, because that network will just continue to increase in value. On the other side of things is the program that we have with the host companies, and that is to be able to work with them to organize or develop from scratch a tangible structure around how do I set up an internship program? What requirements do I need? How do I establish a work plan? And who is going to be the supervisor, the manager to oversee this? And do they need any training so that they can administer and manage an intern so that you have a great experience, you have value that's generated, and you have accountability, and then most important is the momentum. It was a good enough experience to do this again and again. So those are the two sides of the programs that LaunchPoint really focuses on.
And how do you select the companies you want to partner with?
They really need to understand what's required of just management in general, but then specifically with managing an intern. An intern is a part of the team. They're an employee. Thus, the host company needs to designate or have the bandwidth to designate somebody who can manage an intern. Also that they're willing to collaborate with us on developing a structure and a program, as well as objectives, key results, a job description, and a training and onboarding plan to make sure that this program is set up for success. If they're willing to do that, if they have all of these qualifications, then we vet them and we see what kind of opportunities they have, and whether or not we can find a good match.
And how do you select interns to support?
So that's challenging because there's so much need out there. Just like plenty of the folks that you talk to,
right.
There's so many people that you need to help. Right now, I'm focused on UC Berkeley, and I'd like to kind of expand my my reach. When there's an opportunity, it's simply recruiting on campus. Reaching out to undocumented student program, other organizations within the campus that service students from underserved, underrepresented communities. And if there's interest, they need to submit an application, a writing sample, be able to articulate what their academic as well as their career goals. And then also why they'd be a great fit for this program.
What does a typical internship looks like?
So they run 3 to 4 months based off of the host company's needs. There is most definitely a manager or a supervisor from the host company that's been designated. We won't move forward without them. Also, LaunchPoint does designate a coach and advisor. A coach that can partner with the intern to meet with them periodically to make sure that they have everything that they need to succeed, that they have somebody to talk to about issues that might have come up, things that might cause them stress. The coach is definitely an industry veteran, that can provide that level of mentorship in addition to any mentorship management that's happening from the host company. LaunchPoint also designates, typically the same person, an advisor for the host company to the supervisor to make sure that mostly that they're being held accountable, that the meetings are happening, that the intern is a part of the team, that they're included on team meetings and
basically made part of the culture.
Correct, exactly, is part of the culture. And oftentimes that's what I see as kind of a missing variable in a lot of internship is they're very much to the side, they're in the shadows. Right. And I think that's very unfair. I think it's reflective of the fact that unpaid interns are worth less, and that's not true. If you want them to add value, and if you want them, to really do great things in the world, they have to be part of the family. And what LaunchPoint does is make sure that that is the case. Starts off with just kind of a kickoff call of everyone, just laying out, these are the expectations. We actually made both parties sign expectations around, meetings, communications, who needs to meet with who and how often. And most importantly is that onboarding, training, and work plan. These are the things that host company, you need to train this intern on. Intern, these are the objectives you need to work towards. And both of you need to kind of meet frequently to see how we're doing against those objectives, and hope that the magic happens. And we're there to make sure that we can pick anyone up if they're starting to stumble. We can help them out if they run into issues. And then, finally, when it concludes, there's this great feedback and evaluation cycle where we learn a lot, where the host company learns a lot, because they're not just getting feedback from their company. They're getting feedback through us, through the intern. The intern, we make sure that they get feedback, tangible, constructive feedback from their manager, their supervisor, as well as the LaunchPoint coach. And then we open it up to us. We're very transparent with the fact that we've not been doing this for a year.
Sure.
So we're in a constant state of evolution, and we want to hear from the people whom we're trying to help. So that's our internship. That's what it looks like.
Worried about the dilemma of selling first or buying first? TradeMyHome.com, powered by Your Home Sold Guaranteed Realty, has the solution. With our guaranteed 24-hour cash offers, you won't risk owning 2 homes or being homeless. You can buy first and sell later. Are you upgrading or downgrading in the next 3 to 6 months? Text PAIR to 408-740-7400 for a free and no-obligation professional equity appraisal report. Exclusively for Nonprofit Stories podcast viewers. For more information, visit TradeMyHome.com or call 408-740-7400. Remember, at TradeMyHome.com, your home is sold guaranteed or we'll buy it. For the next episode of Nonprofit Stories, featuring Allison Bakewell, the Executive Director at Cake for Kids of Silicon Valley.
What can I do to make this better? And the young girl said that she wasn't crying because she was sad, she was happy. She had never had a birthday cake before in her life.
Their mission is to bake and deliver free birthday cakes to underserved children who might not otherwise receive one.
Do something about it. So she rounded up her friends. She was quite the organizer. And she started...
Check out our next full episode on Wednesday at 5 o'clock Pacific and 8 o'clock Eastern on YouTube and Apple Podcast.
And how do you ensure that internships also promote professional development?
That's a great question, because it starts with the host company. Before we even talk to an intern candidate, we collaborate with the host company to make sure that they have the capacity to administer a great internship program, a great internship experience. And it starts off with what seems very basic, but then what it does is, going through these steps, it makes sure that the internship doesn't fall into that traditional kind of bad internship experience, where interns are in the background, they're in the shadows doing menial work for free. And that's something that's always in the back of our minds that we want to make sure we avoid. So it starts off with the basics, which is, okay, host company, what is your need? And from there, we craft a job description. Just intern, it's not enough. It's not this all-inclusive description of doing anything and grabbing whatever scraps of experience that they can find. Going through the exercise of defining, we need a social media intern. We need a content development intern. It's transformative. It really changes the perspective of the host company as they think about what kind of value this intern will add, as well as the recruiting and the management process. The next thing that we work with the host company is the training and the onboarding plan. And it is critical that even an intern, someone who's entry level, because there's now a job description, there needs to be some thought behind how do we provide the education and the training so that somebody coming in isn't set to just flounder and try to figure things out as they go along. The challenge with unpaid interns is, well, there's no opportunity cost. I mean, if they're floundering, that doesn't cost us anything. Okay, and especially if LaunchPoint is sponsoring this intern, right. Oh wow, we better be. We're definitely sure that they have an onboarding program. They're paid for training and onboarding so that they can add value as quickly as possible. And the third thing, and I mentioned this earlier, is that work plan. Let's make sure that you can, the host company can articulate what are the higher level objectives that this intern is meant to contribute to, and from there we can develop tasks, projects, and all of these things that the intern can really visualize as this is my path to getting to the end of this internship, knowing that I accomplished something, that I learned something. Another aspect of professional development during the internship is the coaching and advising that happens during the process. I think at every stage of our career, our professional development has been enhanced by having a good manager, a good mentor, and we want to make sure that there's no shortage of mentorship, chemistry, right. With the internship. And then, and third is even when the internship ends, that there's a spotlight on the feedback, right. On the evaluative feedback, so that the intern knows what they can work on, what they kind of develop, what they can kind of continue to develop. But then also there's an exercise that I'm really enthusiastic about, which is being able to just extract feedback. A lot of times, especially if you're young in career, you might be a little too shy, yeah. Or you might be too timid to voice your opinion.
We all have been there, right?
Exactly, we've all been there, and especially in this day and age, there's this generation that knows more about the world than we do in some respects, So there's a perspective that we would be missing out on if we did not extract that feedback from them, but then also get them familiar with, and comfortable with, even if it's hard feedback, get it out, because it's not going to do anyone any good if it just kind of stays in there and stays in your head and doesn't see the light of day. And then simply, if they're alumni or if they're just within the community, we all stay in touch. There's a network of ex-interns and alumni and just people who I've been in contact with, and we stay in touch, and we make sure to forward opportunities, and then also invite each other to, for example, the professional insights sessions that we do monthly. So everyone's invited to those.
So apart from getting these great interns, how else do businesses benefit?
So actually, there are a lot of obstacles before they can even get to the point where they can recruit and get an intern on their own. So engaging with an academic institution, a college, is actually quite challenging. It's actually very time consuming. All career centers at universities, they work with a platform called Handshake. And it's really great in terms of being able to connect employers with students and to be able to list events and opportunities. The challenge is that it's time consuming to join and establish your business, but then also there's a lot of interactivity and student engagement that you need to invest in order to kind of increase your reputation score. The higher your reputation score is, the more you can do to kind of recruit. A lot of businesses, a lot of scrappy startups, they just don't have the time for this. And especially they don't have the time to do this for every university that they want to hit. Right. Which is why oftentimes the types of companies that recruit, they're bigger, they're big six, they're more established, they're established enough to invest the time and resource to do that level of recruiting. And it kind of disqualifies this whole segment, this whole category of startups and scrappier businesses, especially female and BIPOC owned businesses that I really like consulting with and working with. They're just not represented, and they have tons of experience that they can share, tons of stories. They're just short on resources, time, and money. And what LaunchPoint does is we're the direct service. We bridge that gap. So then, if a company is able to host an intern, whether or not it's through LaunchPoint, there's documented benefits of having a diverse workforce.
Right.
It has a positive contribution to recruiting and culture and profitability, furthermore, this is a demographic and a generation that you simply cannot ignore. We often kid around with the older generation talking about how the younger generation has it so easy. I've got 2 kids that are about to become teenagers, and I might be the first generation to say this. I'm like, wow, the younger generation has it harder, given all the complexity, all of the obstacles that are out there. I think that, and being just overwhelmed with all of the inputs, all of the data, all of the news, and being able to sort through all of this, they're going to be able to speak a very specific generational language. They also have this very unique perspective that simply cannot be ignored as businesses tend to continue to evolve. While LaunchPoint may not staff that intern, simply the benefit of hosting or having somebody in that generation, in that demographic, contributing to the diversity within their organization just has incredible benefits.
And what are some of your unique challenges?
Well, let's see. LaunchPoint, as I mentioned, has just started. We officially kicked off at the beginning of the year, so October. So I'm 10 months into being a nonprofit founder. So that comes with it just growing pains. As I mentioned, I'm a consultant for technology companies, so I operate in a certain fashion, and nonprofit, not so much. Requires a little bit more, respect to timing. Coupled with working with academic institutions, we ended up having a great spring because everyone was planning for the summer. It's like, okay, this is great. We had programs going in the summer, and then once the summer hit, I'm like, okay, let's plan for fall. Only to realize that academic institutions don't like to do a lot of work over the summer, and it caused me to rethink how I pace my year, and it's very much in alignment with where can I make the most movement within academic institutions. So I think that's number one. And the next challenge is working with the volunteers and the advisors that I have. They're all great, and I think one of the challenges is me overcoming the guilt that they're working for a nonprofit. Typically, I have a team that has bonuses and a paycheck, and I now manage a nonprofit where my currency is the good that we're doing, and that's great, but it's required a little bit of adjustment on my part.
What is one common myth about your work and your organization?
The most common misconception comes from host companies who think they engage with me and I present them with an intern and they just get to work. The truth is, and I'm actually very upfront about this now, is all of the work and collaboration with the host company and the host company's team to really develop a structure around the internship program, the commitment around the training and the onboarding program, and the resources that need to get allocated to manage that internship program so that it's a success. when I'm able to kind of get over that misconception, then it really helps weed out the types of companies I want to work with and the companies that maybe need a little bit more time.
And what one piece of advice will you give to the community you serve?
So in my class, every time I pose a question and there's some struggle with the answer, I follow it up with assume unlimited resources and have them kind of rethink it. I mean, the point is to try to make sure that they continue to think big. Now, when it comes to the individuals that I want to serve, these are these individuals who typically grew up with a lot less. And while they will have an edge with resilience and resourcefulness and grit, I know that growing up with less, has the risk of having them developed a scarcity mindset. Mm-hmm. And oftentimes that will result in, perfectionism and kind of an over-reliance on oneself. And these are not bad things, but a lot of times what that does, it kind of shifts out of focus the long-term goal, long-term objective. And I've definitely seen this in some of the interns that we've worked with, is that they kind of compartmentalize what they're capable of. When faced with or when asked to solve a problem or a challenge, because of this mindset, they tend to think of the solution limited to what they alone can accomplish, and that's a mistake that makes them very tactical. That keeps them from thinking bigger. So I continue to nudge them to have my advisors nudge them to go, okay, assume unlimited resources. Because I know the feeling. Your boss asks you, well, we have this challenge, and it's immediately overwhelming because I can't do all this. And the thoughts after that are unreasonable. I'm like, okay, that would take an army of programmers and a gajillion dollars, something subjective like that. And where I say, hey, okay, stop, okay, assume unlimited resources and really kind of get them out of that mindset so that they can take a step back, breathe and be pragmatic, okay? Put in a compartmentalize it, break it down, itemize it, and maybe the solution starts to become a little bit more visible. We'll take maybe 10 programs and we outsource it here, and maybe we need to partner up here. It's no longer a gajillion dollars. It's like, okay, well, maybe that's $50,000. Okay, boss can still say no, but thanks for that. More likely they'll say, hey, we don't have $50,000, we have $20,000. Can you do anything with that? And that's where individuals with that come from this background, that's where they can really thrive. That's where their grit and their resilience, their resourcefulness can really be a benefit to figure out how they can stretch their resources to be able to solve this problem. So assume unlimited resources, break down your problem, and come up with a solution that you can work with.
Thank you, Itai, for being part of our show today. Keep up the great work, and let's stay in touch.
All right. Thank you, Sharad. And actually, same to you. I really appreciate this platform that you've created for nonprofits to share their stories. So, Sammy, you keep up the great work, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the podcast and acknowledging the impactful work of nonprofits in Silicon Valley. Please subscribe and share this episode with a friend. Thank you to our sponsor, TradeMyHome.com, for their community commitment and for making this podcast possible. Until next time, remember to support local nonprofits.